Good. Welcome. 1 Million Cups is an entrepreneurial forum that is founded by and sponsored by the Kauffman Foundation out of Kansas City, Missouri. And right now, all across the country, in about 180 cities, entrepreneurs just like us are getting together to talk success stories and challenges. Do we have any first-timers, any newcomers here today? Raise your hand. Welcome. I'm Sean Donovan, and I'm joined by a fantastic team of organizers who help make this possible every week. If you're an organizer, please raise your hand and be recognized as well. Fantastic. Well, guys, I'm really excited to announce today's presenter. Today we have Emilie Wren, and Emilie is a manufacturing HR manager turned recruiter and small business owner. And her goal is to bridge the gaps between hiring managers, recruitment firms, and candidates. And she partners with the community to do different events to help bring jobs to unemployed job seekers. So without further ado, please help me welcome Emilie to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many smiling faces this morning. So how many people have had a really great experience with a recruiter? Okay. And how many people have had a really horrible experience with a recruiter? Yeah, usually there's a few more people in the crowd for that. So the reality is there's a lot of people who have misconceptions about recruitment. They think that all recruiters, and I'm going to get into some of that, but a lot of us have worked with recruiters and we've had really good experiences where they really get you and they understand you and they understand the business. And then there's other people who are just in it to make money, because there is a lot of money to be made in the industry. So my story is I started off as an HR manager. I did office management. I worked for a company that had about 7 offices throughout the state of Florida. So I ran all of the personnel in those offices, HR, all of the kind of HR side of things for those 7 offices. And I had my daughter, and I grew up at the beach. And so my husband and I both decided that we wanted to get back to the beach. We were living in Orlando. We didn't want to be in Orlando anymore. We wanted to move closer to the beach. So we came closer to the beach. And he said, basically, go find a job and we'll move. So I went and found a job as an HR manager. And it was great at first. I went and successfully hired about 60 people in about 30 days, which is a lot of people for a company. And it was awesome. And I'm one of those people who really get to know my employees. You know, I knew them on a personal level. I knew the names of their children, all of that stuff. And unfortunately had to do a series of 3 layoffs. And that hit me as an HR manager extremely hard. It was something that I took to heart. I had fired people before in my life who deserved to be fired for reasons that I probably shouldn't say out loud, being recorded. But I have hired people and fired people when they deserved it, and it was easy. But when you're going through and you're laying off people whose livelihood depended on the business and they didn't do anything wrong, it was just the nature of the business, it was extremely hard for me. So I decided to leave. While I was working there, however, I saw the value in recruitment. There was a lot of recruiters that I worked with from an HR side that really brought value to me. I had these positions that I couldn't fill, and I had these, recruiters that came and they brought in a great employee, and they ended up being some of our best employees. And it was all because that recruiter got to know us. And then I also, on the other side, met with some recruiters who just did the same things I was doing and were bringing me the same candidates that I was getting from an HR side. So I saw the value in recruiting, and then I also saw the harm that a horrible recruiter could do to an organization when they're just trying to get that placement fee. So I decided I'm going to jump into recruitment, and it's kind of one of those things where I constantly want to try and help everyone, and I can't help everyone, but it was important for me as a recruiter. I joined a firm, I guess it was about a year ago, and I didn't agree with the way that they were running their business. It was kind of one of those bad recruiter sides. And they were great people. They've taught me a ton of really valuable information. But the motto for a lot of recruitment firms is let's just throw everything up against the wall, hope something sticks, and we'll just wait for the placement fees to come in. We'll just cold call everyone. And yes, that model has worked for a lot of businesses, but that's just not the way I wanted to do my business. I felt like there was true value in actually getting to know the businesses and getting to know the candidates on a personal level and really making sure that what business I'm placing a candidate in is the right fit for them and not just the right fit for any position because they're qualified on paper. So that's why I decided to go on my own, and I decided to start my own firm. So I did, and now this is, basically the best thing that I could ever describe my life as. Everybody thinks that I do all of these things, but in reality, I'm just crying at my desk all day. Maybe not all day, but I do cry at my desk more than I ever did as an HR manager because it is frustrating, as I'm sure some of you entrepreneurs out there know. That's not a secret. So the definition of recruiters is to go out and bring employees or bring recruits to your organization. A headhunter is someone who goes out and finds people to match your organization or your group. And now everybody kind of calls them recruiters because headhunters have gotten kind of a bad name. And I was speaking with him earlier about, you can really have a great headhunter who goes out there and finds the right candidate. And that's more of what I am. I go out and partner with businesses. I go out, they tell me, hey, Emily, I need this, 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 and this. And I go find that person. And it's a little bit different than some of the recruitment firms that are out there that can do a really great job as well. But I am more of a headhunter than a recruiter, and I think a good recruiter or a good headhunter does both. So a good recruiter or a good headhunter can do not only, finding someone to come to your organization through recruitment, through figuring out, what your company needs, what your company doesn't need, but also they go out and find you that right match for you. So I think it's important that the world knows that there are a lot of really great recruiters / headhunters out there. It's just about making sure and candidates, it's about making sure you find the one that matches your organization or matches your fit as a candidate that you're looking for. So a recruiter is also not the only source that a business uses, and that's one of my challenges as an entrepreneur, as starting my own recruitment firm. There are a ton of recruitment firms out there, a ton. And so I have sort of competition with some of the other recruitment firms, but also not really, because they are doing a lot of things that I'm not doing. And, a lot of people have misconceptions about what recruiters are. We are not the only source that businesses use. Sometimes most of the time, we are the last source that a business will use in order to fill a position after their HR team has looked for it, after they have asked for referrals, after they've done a lot of other things, because the fees that recruiters charge are very high. So companies don't want to pay that if they can find somebody on their own. We are not a resume builder. We are not a career coach. There are a lot of really great resume builders and career coaches out there. And a good recruiter, a good headhunter does both. So when I'm working with a candidate, I do help them with their interviewing skills. I do help them with, what to prepare for, what to do whenever they are going on an interview. I do help them rebuild their resume so that even if I can't place them, now they have a resume that's been viewed by an HR manager / recruiter and can help them to find their job down the road. But there are a lot of agencies out there that don't help with those skills. And I think it's important for companies to partner with recruitment firms that do help those candidates, but also candidates, if they're looking for a recruitment firm, it's important that they find somebody who is going to guide them, because a lot of companies will just take your resume, pass it along, not make any changes, nothing, so you're just being represented by the same way you could be represented if you just went directly to the company. And so it's important that when people are partnering with a recruiter, they do offer some of those skills, but I am not a career coach. I help guide my candidates for the position that I am recruiting for. If I'm working with one of my clients, I give a worksheet to my candidates to say, this is kind of what they're looking for. These are your skills. These are the things we talked about that you can bring to the table for them, so that when they're on that interview, they have that in front of them to reference. But a career coach is a lot more than that. And there are some really great career coaches out there, and then again, there are some really not great ones. And then I'm not a babysitter. I can't do it all for everyone. I can't go on an interview with people. I can't do all these. I've had one guy who went on an interview, passed, the phone screens and did all of that, and it went great. Well, then he shows up to the interview. This is for like a pretty high salary paid position. Shows up to the interview in jeans and a crinkled shirt and that had like stains on it.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm like, he didn't get the job. Well, in the paperwork I tell people what to wear and what to do, but I can't dress somebody and send them off. So that's a little bit past my level of care. So I'm not a babysitter. So there is some responsibility that candidates have to have when they go on an interview, but I do help coach with that. So what does set me apart? And I want to make sure there's enough time for questions because I can just talk the rest of the time, put a microphone in my hand, and I'll just keep talking. So some of the things that set me apart is I actually build relationships. So if you ask my best client what sets me apart from the other recruiters in the area is I took the time to get to know him, I took the time to get to know his team, and I took the time to have interest in his company to where now when he calls me and says, hey, I need this, I can ask what specific model they're working on, what specific project they're working on, how far along they are in the project to know if this person is going to be coming into an issue or they're going to be coming into a solved problem and they need to maintain it. And it's that personal touch of them just being able to call me and say, hey, this is what I need, but because I know the business, they don't have to explain that. I don't need a job description because a job description doesn't really tell me that much because I've gotten to know the company culture so well that I can find the right person for them just based off of a brief conversation. Another thing is, you can get to know a business, you can get to know what they do, but if you don't get to know the employees that are working there and take a walk through, I've flown to Oklahoma City before because I have clients in Oklahoma City, and in order for me to properly recruit for a firm, I need to know what it's like every day when you walk into the office. So when you walk into the office, what is it like? What is the receptionist like? What is the manufacturing floor like? Because when I walked onto a floor, I can tell if there's tension because I have that HR side of things. So when you walk onto a manufacturing floor and everybody's looking like this and just kind of nobody wants to say anything when you're walking around with the president, or the president is walking around saying, hey, George, how are you today? It was very nice to meet you. How's your daughter? Making that extra step, that tells me a lot about the culture. And I can help the company no matter what the culture is, but if I know what that culture is, I can go find a candidate that matches with that culture. The very first thing that I ask a candidate is, what are you looking for? And if what they're looking for doesn't match with what the company I have does, it's not going to be a good fit in the long run. So that's the very first question a candidate is asked anytime that I work with them. And I have turned down the perfect candidate on paper for an organization because they wanted to work in a very, very large atmosphere, like a Lockheed Martin type situation, and my client has 80 employees. That's not going to work in the long run, maybe short term, but that's not going to work in the long term. So it's really about getting to know the full company culture, not just the talking, because the company culture from a president's perspective and the board of directors perspective is totally different than the company culture on a ground level. So getting to know some of the employees, I'll talk to some of the employees if they'll let me and say, hey, what do you like about here? Or I'll reach out to people on LinkedIn who work there, or I'll reach out to people on Facebook who work there. Say, how do you like working there? Because that's how you get to know it, and that's how you can make that perfect match with an organization and a person. I don't place ads either. So a lot of times, and this is some of this is kind of some of the challenges that I know you guys are going to ask me about after this, but I don't place ads. A lot of times when I was working as an HR manager and I would work and partner with firms, I would give them the job description or my job posting. They would literally copy that, take out my company name, and post an ad on the same sites that I have an ad posted on. So they're getting the same candidates I'm getting, and then trying to get a fee on it. Because as a job seeker, they're going on and saying, oh, there's 3 positions open for mechanical engineering. I'm gonna apply to all 3, maybe I'll get an interview at one, when they could just be the same company posted 3 different times. So I don't do any of that because frankly I think it's a waste of money, it's a waste of time to be searching through a bunch of resumes when I could go search for candidates and then reach out to them and say, hey, are you interested in exploring new opportunities? Because even if the best candidates out there sometimes are the ones who are currently working, but let's face it, I mean, we've all worked. We don't always like where we work. So there are a lot of people who might be open to leaving an opportunity so that they can find a better one. And I would rather spend my time as a recruiter going and finding those candidates that are interested in leaving that company that they're at now because they're not treating them right, and bring them into the company where I know they're gonna have a really great culture and a really good match for a long-term fit. I tell a story, and this just happened last week, but I had a candidate who was a former Marine, just got out of the Marines. You know, he had a Marine written resume, which if anybody has seen that, they do not look like a civilian resume, and it doesn't match with any kind of civilian world that you would say. It's just totally different. And I was working with a client, and I said, after speaking with this candidate for 45 minutes, I went back to my client and I said, you really need to just talk to him. I know you're gonna think I'm crazy when you read this resume because it doesn't match with what you're looking for, but you just need to have a conversation with him. And when he did have a conversation with him, the candidate was working within 72 hours of having the initial conversation with my client. Because my client trusted me, he knew that I was looking, what I found was what the cultural fit that he was looking for, and he could teach some of the skills that this guy was lacking. But when you become an E9 in the Marines, you have a lot of skills that need to be brought into the civilian world that a lot of people don't recognize because maybe your resume doesn't match. So it's about building that client relationship. And that's really kind of what sets me apart from a lot of the other companies. Locally, nationally, I'm a national recruiter, so locally, nationally, that's what sets me apart. Is I will go to the organizations and get to know them before I try and place a bunch of people. I will have conversations on a personal level with the HR managers before trying to place someone because it helps me get to know them. The questions that I ask companies are not, what's the job description? The questions I ask these companies are, what are the goals for this person? If you look back in 3 months, if they've done something in 3 months, what will they need to have done to be successful in their role? You know, what are the target dates? What are the target dates for you that you need projects completed? What is, you know, if somebody were to walk in today with these skills, what are they gonna have? Or, my favorite question to ask, because it makes my job easier, they come from a certain company, what company will they come from that you will want to hire them immediately? Because I will go to that company and I will try and find their best employee and bring them to you. And that's the difference. You know, I won't place an ad and expect the people who are looking for jobs. I'm gonna go out and find that person that, you know, is really interested in only leaving an opportunity for a better opportunity. And fortunately, my clients right now offer those better opportunities, but you know, and I think right now in the culture of low unemployment and things like that, we do have to have companies be more competitive in wanting to bring people to them, and that's a conversation I'm not afraid of having with my clients either, of, hey, if you really want the best of the best, here's what the best of the best is paying, and here's the packets that they are leaving, because I had another candidate who was interested in leaving working for NASA and SpaceX and that world for a manufacturing facility, but when I started speaking to the candidate, he's like, well, this is the bonuses I get, this is the benefits I get, and the company I was working with just couldn't compete. Same with Amazon. I had a guy who was a warehouse manager for Amazon who, with all of his bonuses and stock options, was making like $175,000 a year. And I'm like, well, you need to just never leave. Just stay there forever and retire at, you know, 35. So it's really just about making the personal connection, and that's what I am working hard at, but it also presents its own challenges. So, any questions? Jane Pfeiffer will kill me if I don't mention this. So, we have our VMA Showcase, October 18th, Manufacturer Showcase. Please come, it's free to attend from 1 to 7. However, we do have a VIP networking event for $25 that includes CEO roundtable of some of the bigger CEOs for some of our manufacturing facilities here in Volusia County. So I have this informational sheet. Come take a look at it. If you want a ticket, let me know, and I can figure out how to send you the right way to get a ticket. So now I'm gonna
Questions? Anybody? All right, Rick.
Rick, with Mobile Coal, what is your, do you know your success rate, your placement success rate since you've been in business? 80%, 90%?
It's about 80% right now.
Hold the mic closer. That one didn't get on it.
Okay, it's about 80% right now. It also, I have about 4 jobs right now that are outstanding, which if 1 or 2 of those hit, that's gonna go up from there as well, so.
Hey there, Donald from Donnie's Donuts. I'm curious about your business model. What's your revenue stream like? And not particular, but where does your revenue come in? Do you get commissions, say I need this position filled, and once that's done, you're paid and then you move on to the next? Do you have reoccurring clients? Are you constantly going out and getting new business? How do you build that pipeline?
Yes to all of these. My biggest, right now I am a contingent-based recruiter. So you come to me and say, I need a mechanical engineer, and then I go find a mechanical engineer, and then you pay me based on an agreed upon fee. There is a retention base that I have talked about with some of my clients where they say, hey, I'm gonna be hiring 15 people in the next 3 months. Can you help me? And then they would pay me a lump sum up front so that it kind of buys my time, so I'm not focused on other clients. And then once, then I kind of, they take up the majority of my time, and I will work on their positions first. But that's, contingency is once I fill the position, then I get paid, and I have a guaranteed rate of 90 days. So they make it 90 days.
So you're constantly looking for new business?
Yes. Yeah. But I'm also picky about the businesses that I work with because I'm so cultural based. There are some companies that I just won't work with. And then there's some companies that are so big that I can't get to know their culture, like the Lockheed Martins out there. It's really hard to work with a large organization because I would have to get the fit for that particular facility where they're at, and it's a little bit more difficult. Good question.
Emily, Steve Keeler, you and I had a conversation before your presentation. Great job. The combination between what used to be a headhunter and today is a recruiter, you both have the same kind of challenge in the end in dealing with the HR people, which creativity-wise are about a notch up from accountants, maybe?
Hey, I was an HR manager.
That's all right. That's a good shame. How do you build a relationship with the HR people in corporations?
Well, the biggest thing is I have 2 of my HR certifications. So when I'm talking to an HR manager, I actually know what they do every day because I was an HR manager. So I'm able to connect with them on, for instance, I know when the quarterly reports are due, or if they say I'm in open enrollment, I know what that means from an HR perspective. So I say, hey, you know what? Get through that, and then we'll have our conversation because I know the chaos that some of that can be. So luckily, because of my HR background, I'm able to connect with the HR managers a little bit more because I get what they do on a daily basis. I just went to the dark side of recruiting.
Gotcha, I understand. One more question. The really successful recruiting people in business kind of build a pool on both sides of the fence, a pool of clients who come back to them every 6 years or 8 years or whatever the cycle is, and a pool of corporations. What kind of numbers do you have on both sides of the fence? Just curious.
Right now, I just started my company in April is when I went live. So right now I have 2 companies that are my base companies that use me for, I would say 100% of what they do. And then I've got other companies that I'm working with that are using me for positions here and there. Candidate-wise, I have a large base of candidates that I work with. I've got one candidate who, since even last year when I was in HR, I'm still talking to this person from when I tried to recruit him when I was an HR manager. So now he is somebody that when he goes to look for another job, I know he's gonna call me. And you know, I would say right now, I'm still building the candidate side, but I'm very active on LinkedIn, so that has helped me get to know candidates and candidates get to know me, so that when I reach out to them, we've already had a conversation. So I think LinkedIn is a huge source for a recruiter to kind of build their network of those candidates, whereas, you know, back in the 90s, 80s, it was a little bit more challenging to do that.
Do you feel the premium member, I'm sorry, do you feel the premium membership for LinkedIn's worth it?
I'll tell you in a year.
Morning, Emily. Tom Jordan. Thank you for your time this morning. We've had presenters here before talk about generational changes. Are you seeing that in terms of what candidates expect from jobs, pay, benefits, time, and are you seeing that on the employer side also?
I am seeing a turn. The employees, you know, and I was at a meeting last month, and a CEO of a business locally asked me, so what is your sense of a long-term placement? You know, if somebody's been with the company long-term, what does that mean to me? And my answer was 2 to 3 years. And he was shocked because his answer was 20 years, you know, and that's just not the reality anymore. People are, especially the younger generation, they will leave where they're at to go to another company because the grass is greener. And as we all know, the grass isn't always greener. But companies now, I think, are making a change of, okay, how can we sweeten this deal to get some of this top talent? Because, you know, a lot of the really, really good people are not the younger generation. They're the older ones, and they are becoming more and more and more difficult for companies to get a hold of because they have to sweeten the deal. Because even the older generations, now they've been with a company for 10, 15 years, so their bonuses are higher, their salaries are higher. The company has to make it a really sweet deal for them to leave where they at, where they have seniority, to go to a new firm. So companies are making a change, I think. It's slow, but there definitely is a change happening.
Hi, Paula Morton with Volusia Senior Learning. I'm interested, you've talked about mechanical engineers, but there's a whole spectrum of income level from roofers to mechanical engineers. The salary that a person commands, does that influence your commission or your payment? Or do you have a salary kind of minimum that you expect that you wouldn't take certain people at certain jobs?
Well, it depends on the company, is the answer. For one of my companies, I would work on an entry-level position. Of course, I get paid based off of the salary that someone makes. I get a percentage off of what their annual salary is, regardless if it's an hourly position or a salary position. If it's a really good company that I know the culture and I know somebody will make a good fit, I absolutely would do an hourly position, somebody making, you know, $14 an hour, whatever. I only do direct placement, which a lot of times for the positions within hourly positions, they want somebody to do contract to hire. And because it's just me, I don't have the capacity to do that. But I absolutely would do. I would say most of my clients, however, right now only use me for salary positions. I would say $50,000 and up. But one of my clients also knows that if they call me, I will help them. So I got one of my top clients from filling a $15 an hour position. So.
Rudy or Michael?
Anybody else?
Rudy or Michael?
I'll share.
Thank you. Hi. First of all, great presentation. I'm intrigued, Emily, with the level of trust that you've been able to create on both sides of your buyer and seller equation. And I guess my question revolves around the amount of trust they would have to have. But I've heard, that could be completely off base here, but I've heard that headhunters get like 6 months of a salary for something. So basically, the company pays you $20,000 to get a guy, and he, by definition, he's already an ambitious guy who's maybe already left his other career, and he leaves. You know, he works okay, but he works out all right, perhaps, but he leaves in 15 months or 18 or 24 months. So they've paid a lot of money to get these guys. Is there any kind of Can you give them a guarantee, or is there a lock-in period that protects everybody somehow?
That's a really great question, and that is where the value of a really good recruiter comes in. But yes, I have a 90-day guarantee, which seems short on a scheme of that, but I promise, like I have one candidate or client who I placed someone with him in January, and she won't be leaving because they're encouraging her to grow within the company, and that's exactly what she was looking for. However, the 90 days is up. So they have paid me, they are happy with it, and they've moved on. And if she were to leave, then at that point, they would come back and say, hey, we need another one. Well, I would hope. But that is where, and I think from a manufacturing perspective, and I chose manufacturing for a very specific reason, manufacturing is an industry where recruiters are widely used. So a 90-day guarantee is also a lot longer than some companies will do. So I've seen a 30-day guarantee, I've seen a 2-week guarantee.
There's no 2-year guarantee.
No, there's not. Now, if I had a company who, I don't think I would do a 2-year.
No.
I don't think I would do a 2-year. No, I wouldn't.
Don't say that.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't do a 2-year. I would do 90 days, and that's been enough. People are usually happy with that.
Thank you.
What's the guarantee that you're providing them for that 90 days? If the candidate won't leave?
That the candidate will work out. So it's kind of like if, let's say, day 89, they say, whoa, this guy's crazy, he's not going to work out. I will replace that candidate at no additional fee. Even if the salary is higher, I'm not going to charge more for that candidate. And worst case, I would give the money back, but I have yet to even see a recruiter who had to do that. Actually, I take that back. I did see a recruiter once who had to do that. That's cool.
All right, so my actual questions, Michael Zaharias, Florida Virtual Entrepreneur Center, get two for you. You said national recruiting. What is it like to be a one-person operation and do national recruiting? Are you flying all over the place, or are you able to do this pretty much from Volusia County?
I'm able to do it pretty much from Volusia County until I need to go meet face-to-face with my clients, but I don't do cold calling. So the way I meet my clients is I go to trade shows, and I actually get to meet the people at the trade show and say, hey, my name is Emily, it's nice to meet you, and that's how I've gotten 3 national accounts. So I'm already meeting them, so I'm able to kind of make that face-to-face thing, so when I call, it's a little bit easier, and then I will go out and visit the client out wherever they are. But travel is minimum, I'm able to do everything here.
Awesome. Second question for you. So you've been in this now maybe a year, give or take. What has been the biggest challenge or something that you stumbled at, going from working for someone to transitioning to your own business owner?
From my business perspective or my personal perspective?
Whichever you would prefer to share, but the business would be my preference.
It's both. I mean, I was so used to, this is personal and business, but I was so used to getting a salary from an HR perspective. So to go from having a normal salary to not having anything was terrifying. And that has been my biggest personal, but also business. But from a business perspective, it's gaining the trust of companies. It's really, that is my biggest challenge with my business right now in general, is getting my clients to understand the value that I bring and getting their trust. Once I have their trust, it's easy to maintain because they get to know me and they get to know, what I do and what I bring. So, but it's just a matter of getting the trust in people without blowing up their phone cold calling. So, I'm still figuring it out.
Another question in the back. We're not giving you the mic, Tyler.
Cassandra Jordan, Career Source Black Revolution. The work that I do is I assist people who have disabilities in finding employment, and our company makes sure they have the tools they need to find work that's suitable for them. So can you say a word about companies? And when we look at an unemployment rate, and we look at it being lower than it's ever been, so companies, of course, are looking to hire a more diverse population of people with that. But can you say a word about companies and them hiring people with disabilities? And when I say disability, I'm saying just a wide spectrum, not just what people normally think about physical, because some of them can be invisible.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. One of the things is, because of my HR side, I don't people if they have disability. If they're the best candidate, they're the best candidate. So at no time do I ever say to my clients, hey client, this person is the best candidate, but they might have a mental illness. That's just not discussed. But what I do make sure that my clients, or if I'm gonna ever, like if I were to work with one of your candidates, and I know because they're in one of your programs that they have a disability, and then they also have to disclose some of that stuff on their employment papers. A big thing for me is, okay, what kind of resources do you have? And I'm just using mental illness as an example because it's very close to my family and my heart. What employee assistance programs do you have that can support, this disability? And if that employment assistance program is not going to be conducive for the person, then it's not going to be a fit in the long run, and then I can't, with good judgment on myself, place somebody in a position where they're not going to succeed. I think more and more companies are trying to hire diverse, and I think more and more they're seeing, okay, is this person the best person for us? And if they are the best person, how can we support them? And, I don't have any client that I would work with that would say, no, they have a mental illness, I'm not working with them. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do that, so.
Good morning, Tyler Comp Networks Inc. Great job, Emily. This was an awesome presentation. Speaking about the future, so you're a one-woman show right now. You're handling what you can and starting to build, etc. What's the future look like for you? Do you intend to go full-blown agency, temp to perm, stuff like that, or do you intend to get into a PEO situation? How do you maybe talk about some of the larger operations in recruiting, so people understand where you might want to go and how we can help?
Yeah, so I want to stay direct placement only,
Okay.
but I definitely want to add someone to my team from a recruiter standpoint. I want to be still the voice talking to the clients because I don't want to give that up. It's my favorite part of it. But I do want to hire somebody and train somebody as a recruiter to do what I do as a recruiter.
Okay.
I want to stay kind of small. I would like to eventually have 3 or 4 recruiters under me who can do it the way I do it, not the way anybody else does it. I want to personally train these people, but I always want to stay a little bit small. I don't plan on, I don't want to have offices in 20 states. I kind of still want it to be that small, intimate feel with getting to know the businesses and, really, now if that means I do have 4 or 5 recruiters under me, I can still, from a national perspective, handle a lot.
Yeah.
But,
More, actually.
yeah, right. But that's really my goal, is to have 4 or 5 recruiters underneath of me, still have an agency, have an office here in Volusia County that can handle anything nationwide.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck.
Any more questions? Oh, we got one more. Ron?
Hi, I'm Ron Moisakarski with Wise Home Team Realty. So we're pretty much in full employment right now. I'm curious what the dynamics looks like 6 months or a year from now with the changing economy and changing real estate market. How does the dynamic of your role change when it's less than full employment?
Actually, my role gets easier. Because companies, when there's less unemployment, companies are like, okay, well, yeah, there's a bunch of candidates out there, but with applicant tracking systems, I confess I was a big advocate for applicant tracking systems. Right now, people aren't getting candidates in their applicant tracking systems because there's not that many people in the job market. What happens when there is less people or more people in the job market, then the applicant tracking systems either get bombarded or they're still not getting anything because applicant tracking systems are not good for actually getting candidates. But when I've seen companies use recruiters when unemployment is high. I've seen companies use recruiters when unemployment is low, as an HR perspective. From a recruiter perspective, I wish I had a crystal ball to tell you what I would, how it, for me personally, now being on this side, it will change. But I have seen companies use them. A lot of times though, when it is lower unemployment, higher unemployment, they go for the CEO levels, is when they're trying to replace their CEO levels, and they'll only use recruiters for that usually.
So I'm wondering the other side of this. So for instance, right now, companies are making these huge offers to people with bonuses and stocks on just to compete. So when that changes, they're probably able to make a lower offer, but do we see some people that are perhaps like your guy Emma trapped? So I'm wondering what that dynamic was. Do you see any softening of wages as we go through this market?
I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that. I would say there probably would be some softening, but I really don't. I don't know because I don't have the experience from this side of things to be able to give an educated answer on that. After we go through another ebb and flow, then I would be, a couple years down the road, I'll be able to speak, more to that. But I just don't know the answer being on this side of things.
Anybody else? Let's give it up for Emilie.